I think I started collecting African art or enjoying African art when I was in seventh grade. And I asked the art teacher one day, what do people that look like me collect and what do they draw? And he quietly went to his desk and he slid over a book to me on African art. And I had never seen a whole book with masks and statues and costumes. And this is, wow, this is back in the 60s. So early 60s. So I looked at the book and I thought, this is nice. And then I picked out a head that I drew in seventh grade. And it was like the big brass figure with the horn on top. And I copied that picture onto cardboard and drew that for my seventh grade art contest and won first place. Couldn't believe it. And I think that got me collecting African art. Plus, in our house at home in Westchester County, New York, my parents had on the wallpaper two large figures, and there were panels in the wallpaper. They were black figurines, and one was on each side of the fireplace, holding a bowl and kneeling. And it looked to me like some of the pictures I saw of ancestor worship or someone praying with a bowl. And it was very African looking. So I think that also inspired me. Africa is a very, very large continent with all these countries there. And you have the north, the south, the east, the west, the central part. And each one has different art, comes from each area. And I have in my collection mostly concentrated on Central Africa, the Congo as they called it. I didn't take my first trip to Africa until 1986 when I went with an aunt from New Rochelle, New York. We took a group of students from New Rochelle and we went to Senegal and Gambia. And it was just wonderful. I get a chill just talking about it. We spent a little over 2 weeks there and it was just terrific. By the end of 2 weeks, though, we were very tired and ready to come home because there's just so much to see. Then my next trip to Africa was to Nigeria. And I went there in 2010. And I went again with a friend that lived here in Sebring. I met her in Sebring. But she was from Nigeria. And she was another teacher, and she was opening a school. So I helped her with her school. We've got a lot of desks from the school system here. And they donated the desk and books that we took over. She got a big container, and we just filled it up with desks and books and everything you need to start a school. It was wonderful. But the smells and the colors and just the noise in the air, all of that, when I talk about it, it just floods right back into your memory. Well, when people ask me, oh, you have a little bit of African art, I go, yeah, I have a little bit. And when I open the door, they usually just stop. And I just let them stand there for about 5 minutes as they just turn their head and they make circles. They kind of walk around. They don't get out of the hallway. Then I say, would you like to come into the living room? And they slowly walk through the halls. They're bumping things because I have stuff lined up on the floor, on the walls, on the ceiling, everywhere, trying to squeeze it all in. It is mostly traditional art that I collect. I love the Coda figures because of their eyes, the different shape, nose, the hairdos. But you notice all the legs have little triangle type legs on them. And then they have like earrings hanging from the earlobes. Most of them do not have a mouth. Some sign of silence is supposed to be represented there. And then you have that little opening. So it's like a man and a woman, but it's an ancestral spirit. These pieces are made by the Coda people or the Bakota people. Some of them are on baskets, but they're usually just tacked against a wall someplace in a small room, but they're kind of protected because these are the ancestors and they want to take care of them and remember them always. I'm just crazy about the power figures because they have so many attachments on them. Sometimes they have little packets, and the little packets remind me of in Haiti, they make little packets with things in it. There's spiritual powers or magical powers that they add on for good luck. And then you have horns and bells and blades that they put on them. And they call them power figures. Well, this one is very unusual. I think this is my most unusual one because of those thick blades. The tongue is sticking out. That's not so unusual. But it's the shape of the blades. And there's just so many of them sticking out. It almost looks like he's flying with these blades on. Most of my power figures have some nails stuck in them as well. But they start with a figure, just a shape, a rough shape, and then they start hammering in these pieces. And sometimes they're called promises, like a promissory note, and you would make a promise and tap that in. I promise to protect this person. I promise to always help somebody. I promise to find someone a job, that kind of thing. Many times people will go to the elder in the village and say that they need some help. They need a power figure to help get the bad spirits out of their house. Then they have one of these figures made and they take it home with them and keep it in their house, and it protects their home. Some are even larger than this. I have one that has 4 heads and it's about as large as the whole stand, and it protects a village. And then I also made a large collection of pieces that represent the village, the history of a village, the memory boards, and how they use little beads and stones to remember things by. So my collection just started growing and growing once I liked something. And it seems like they were very difficult to find for a while. And also when they get popular, I've noticed the people that make these go, in America or France or Belgium, the Netherlands, when people start buying something, they make more of it. And then when that dies down, you can't find them anymore. Then it's almost a rarity. I'd like for visitors to walk away thinking about their ancestors and how they pay respect to their ancestors, and to remember traditions and keeping some of those traditions alive and sharing the love and knowledge of their culture with other people.